Hello, and welcome back to Teaching from Home. And again, I'm creating this series of YouTube videos just to help teachers who have to teach from home for one reason or another. Um, so, in the previous couple of videos, we got into Google Drive, how to get into Google Drive. In the second video, we talked about how to use Google Classroom. Um, and in the first video, we also talked about creating a Google Doc, creating a Google Slide, creating a Google Form, and how to get all the data in terms from the Google Form into a spreadsheet. And then we went into how to put all those lessons in Google Classroom and how to create a class and how to put all those different documents in Google Classroom. So if you have not watched those two videos, I would advise you to watch those two videos. In this video, I'm going to go into what you can do with a Google Doc, a little bit what you can do with a Google Doc, or at least what I like to do with a Google Doc. Um, okay, let's get started. So, because I don't like my students bouncing all over the place, and clicking on different tabs, what I like to do is I like to link everything in my Google Drive that I want the students to have access to right here in the Google Doc. This is a Google Doc that we created from lesson one of teaching from home, so we're going to use this. So. Let's just say I want the students to use a simulation. And like I said in the previous video, I teach chemistry, so I love using PhET, Colorado. So I'm going to go in here and find it. PhET, Colorado. Here we go. And I clicked on acid-base solutions last time, so we're going to go back into that. So I want my students to get into the simulation without having to click on and go into an external tab or having them find it or saying, hey, here's writing on the board and so forth. So I'm going to copy the URL, okay, and I'm going to go into my Google Doc, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste it. So now as the students are working, I can say, click on the link below. To complete the simulation. And a lot of times I want them to respond. I want some kind of reaction to the simulation. And then I'm going to say attach. I want them to attach a screenshot, screen clip actually, of completed simulation. If it's one of those simulations that they actually need to complete. Complete simulation. Some simulations is kind of like just them doing it, and then I'll ask some questions based on that. So what I like to do is I like to give them a place to attach the screen clip. So I'm going to create a table and just really just a box. So I put screen clip here. So I'm really just kind of walking them through this, right? So this is where they're going to attach the screen clip after they're done with the simulation. Let's just say there's some questions. I might ask, question number one might be, what? What's happening in the simulation? Where? Is it happening? Where is it happening? If this is like a history simulation and it's happening, I don't know, in Malaysia, you might want to know where and why is it happening, right? Why is it happening? So these are all questions the students can answer. So I'm going to add this, and this is all part of the simulation. So not only do I just want them to do the simulation, but I want to know their response to the simulation. I want evidence that went in, and they've got some responses, to their experience. So again, this is just about them engaging in the lesson and exploring. I use this a lot as my exploration. I use the 5 E's. This is my exploration. I do use an engage, which is usually kind of two questions on a Google slide and a picture, and I want them to respond to the picture. And then I get into a little more detail where they explore the concept that we're going to look at. And I use this for them to explore, quick 10 minutes here and there. That helps them as well. And then I want to get more into kind of like the details. of my lesson. Let's say there are some responses that I want after I'm doing my teacher mini lesson in the classroom, and they're now going to respond according to that. Something we do it kind of like a whole class, so I'm going to say whole class activity that we're going to do together, and allows me to kind of like, uh, you know, continue to assess any kind of misconceptions or anything that they may have not gotten from the simulation or the teacher mini lesson. So I'll do a whole class activity, and over here I'll usually have some questions that I want them to answer as well. All right, so addition of questions. Let's just call this question one. Let's move on. Then after that, I may want the students to work in groups. All right, so I'll say pairs of groups activity, because I want them to work in pairs of groups to elaborate on what we kind of talked about. So I've got, an engage section. This might be the first thing here might be my engage. Here's my explore, and I'll really title them engage, explore, and so forth. So this would be my engage, and here I have my explore. And again, I'm a science teacher, so I use the 5E model. And then here I have my explain and whole class. So this is after the teacher mini lesson, and we can kind of go back and forth, have classroom discussions, even on paper. Because as the students are filling this out, if you're in the classroom with them as they're filling it out, or there's a set time that you're meeting with them remotely, you can actually go into their personal documents as they're completing it through Google Classroom and see what they're doing, which is really, really cool. Just go into Google Classroom, find the student that you want to find the lesson, then you find the student, and you can actually see what they're doing in real time. So Google makes this easy, so we can see what the students are actually doing. So this is my elaborate section, and then finally, after we do all these activities, I want to evaluate. And as I expressed in the previous video, I use Google Forms to evaluate. So I am actually going to link this to my Google Forms. So let's go back and Drive. Here's my Google Forms, and I want to link this. And I can link anything to this, right? So if I want to link the PowerPoint to that, and as part of my teaching, as part of my explain part, I'm going to right-click and get a shareable link. Okay, turn the sharing on, click on that, copy the link there, go into my Google Doc, and this is part of my explain. So right here underneath explain, I am going to link my PowerPoint slides. Boom, linked. Again, in the previous video, we put all this into Google Classroom, but here I can just link them, and I don't need to put this in Google Classroom at all. I can just put this entire document, lesson one, in Google Classroom. And we're going to go back to Google Classroom and see if this lesson has actually changed, if this document changes. Okay, so I also want to evaluate, so Google Forms. Here we go, and same thing, right mouse click, get a shareable link, turn this on, copy this, go back into my document, and I've linked my form. Now, granted, in the front end of this is tedious, could be, right? If you've got a lot of things going on. Every one of my lessons has this, so, I teach multiple tens, hundreds of lessons a year and for multiple classes, and I create these forms. They work really, really well. I find like it's organized. You can make it simpler. You can make it more complicated than I have. You can link other things. You can link videos, URLs, whatever you want to link to this, you can link. But here we go. It doesn't have to be specific from Drive. I can insert, I can go to insert here and insert an image from a computer, from web, URL. You can insert anything in here. So, but here we go. Here's what I have. And so now when the student goes into this document, they're going to click on this, and then they open this up, and it brings them right here to the Google form. They can complete it and submit it. All right, and just what it looks like from a student perspective, this is what it would look like for the students, and they would have to fill this in and then click submit. Okay, So that's what that looks like from a student's perspective. If you missed the previous video, watch that, and I kind of show you how to work within Google Forms. I don't kind of, I do. Um, so moving back to our document that we just created, if the student needed to look at a PowerPoint while I was teaching, they could just click on this and they can open up a PowerPoint. And here we go. Here's a PowerPoint. Here's a lesson. Here's everything that you're going to see in the classroom as I'm going through this. Or if you need to go back and reference in order to answer questions. And then what we did initially, I wanted them to engage in to explore the concept. So they click on the link here, and it takes them directly to the simulation, and they get started, and they're working, right? And we have our students working right away, which is awesome. Okay, so those are the many things you can do with Google Docs. I'm sure you're going to explore and you're going to find many other things to do with Google Docs. This is my primary source for getting information from students. I don't necessarily use slides to collect information. This is what I use for my worksheets. Google Doc. It works. It works really, really well. And like we did before, if I want the students to respond in a specific place, I would create a table here, because here's where I want their response, and I highlight it. So when I'm grading it, and I go to the bucket, give it kind of like a, I don't know, a different color. So when I go and I'm grading this paper, this document, I'm just looking for, uh, the table where it's highlighted, where it's colored, and this is where their responses are going to go. And it's easier to grade that way. That way, you're not chasing answers if they are writing in black on the white paper. You might be chasing answers, or ask them to write their answer in a different color if you'd like. So it's easier for you to see and easier for you to grade. Okay? Well, I hope you learned more about how to use Google Doc for teaching remotely. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.